Alexis, today is the day.
The namesake episode.
The first
place
time.
we got it.
And we didn't even know. I didn't know. I barely remembered this episode, honestly. I had fun the whole time, and I was like, I remember this. No, I don't.
I remembered, like, the twist at the end that untwists itself.
I did not.
But that is the only thing I remembered about the episode. I couldn't remember where anything was. I couldn't remember why they were doing what they were doing. It was all gone.
I only remembered, like, escapees on a ferry. I didn't know how long we'd be on the ferry, what else would happen. The twist completely caught me off guard. You guys, this one is so much fun. But we do get the first to the blueberry. And we even get it, like, technically twice. Yeah. And Shawn says it both times. I squealed. Beautiful. I cheered. I rewound and rewound. I watched this episode twice, and I had a great time both times. Like, this was not one that I was slogging through my notes on the second watch through.
Yeah, it's a fun episode. It keeps pace. The story is really there in, like, a real way. Like, I'm super, super happy with this episode just the way it is. I've got... I know there was one point where I was like, I'm not writing that. I don't want to talk about that. But I don't even remember what it was. I
know exactly what it was. And I still don't understand what that part was trying to do, because it didn't seem as insulting as I think it would if they were just using it to be insulting. I think I just kind of went, what did Lassiter do to insinuate to Crayg that... But I was like, is that just to be an insult? Because he didn't deliver it as an insult. He was just sort of matter of fact. Like, I didn't bother learning this guy's name. This is all I know about him.
I thought he called him Ichabod Crane.
Oh, he does later.
Okay.
When he's about to kick his ass.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the part where I was like, now, it's not bothering me. I'm just confused by it. Like, it didn't feel as mean-spirited. It just felt incorrect.
Yeah, he was saying it in a very matter-of-fact sort of way instead of in, like, an insulting sort of way.
Yeah, so that's the part I thought would bother you, but, like, I was like, I just don't know why he thought that.
I'm excited for this episode. I've got an absurd amount of notes.
I've got at least 4 pages of typed notes. I typed for the first time. It was fun.
1, 2...
Do you not use Word? Does it not count the pages for you?
4, 5... So I've got 5 full pages. It's because I have them all on a single document. So I have season 3, episode 1 to season 5, episode 7 all on one document. And it's currently 169 pages long.
Girl, this is 4 pages long. It's 1,550 words. Like, I feel like I got it all in there, but I like it. I like the type.
Yeah, just keep me on pace. I think we'll I found myself, like, either having to write a quote because it was hilarious, or writing a quote because it told the story. Mm-hmm. And so I've gotten into this habit of just writing so many quotes. So I tried to do better and I failed. So just keep it moving. It'll be good.
We'll see.
Are you ready to start the show?
It is showtime.
This is
To the Blueberry!
I am Alexis, and I am a real life Gus.
I'm Kaylee, and I'm a real life Shawn.
Together, we are a real-life best friend duo who decided to start a Psych rewatch podcast for no other reason besides we wanted a reason to talk to one another more often, and it's been pretty amazing.
We get to watch our favorite show, we get to talk about it, do a little catch-up every week. We have a great time.
Yeah, it's kind of perfect. But today's episode is Season 5, Episode 7,
Fairy Tale.
And Ferry is spelled Ferry, as in the boat.
Which we're on very quickly, so no spoilers.
But first, we are in 1990, and we have a new little baby Shawn.
Yes, this is our first episode with a little baby Skylar Gizondo as our baby Shawn. You might know him from Vacation, the Ed Helms reboot of Vacation. He's been in Feast of the Seven Fishes. What else has he been in? He's been in a lot of
Santa
stuff.
Clarita Diet was another thing that I know him from.
I love him from that.
He's a cute little baby, Shawn.
Yeah, he's great. He has a good energy. Like, he really matches older Shawn. And I think he and Baby Gus, who's our same Baby Gus that we had before, have a really great dynamic. And we'll get into that a little bit.
It comes out, yeah. It
quick.
starts to come out a lot more here. In 1990, little baby Shawn and little baby Gus are practicing for the three-legged race.
Man, once we win the BMX bike at the police department picnic, all these extra hours of training after school, all the Joe Piscopo endorsed protein shakes are going to be so worth it.
I love that little baby Gus is going to the police department picnic. Like little baby Shawn just gets a +1. No big deal.
Of course he does. He's not hanging out with other police kids. You kidding?
They are going to time the race and go. Inside, outside. They're doing so well.
They're killing it. They're absolutely awesome.
They get to the end and they've set their own new record. Yay! And they do a cool little handshake.
Wait a second. How do we decide who gets the bike?
We could do eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
Heck no. What about rock, paper, scissors?
It's too easy to cheat.
We could just share it.
How about we race for it?
And then they try to run in opposite directions while their legs are still duct taped together. And then they fall over.
They're little baby Shawn and their little baby Gus, and they're bickering just like Shawn and Gus do now.
And then they're running around threatening to duct tape each other's faces and like half tackling each other. And like they get very physical. Like it's a lot more physical than our other dynamic. It's very fun. Like I love it so much.
The scene ends with Gus chasing Shawn, screaming, "I'll tape your face, little boy. Come here."
We cut to present day, and Shawn and Gus are doing a walk and talk, and Shawn is so mad because if you had told me that we were taking the ferry to the Channel Islands for environmental cleanup, I'd definitely have said no.
Shawn points out that he did, in fact, tell him that, but he's easily distracted.
You mean Gus tells Shawn that he told him that?
That's what I meant.
Yes. Case in point, he hands Shawn a Snickers. Shawn's like, "Oh man, thanks so much. I was getting so hungry."
We hear the horn, and now Shawn is stuck on the ferry. And they immediately see that there are prisoners who are on a work furlough. And that means that they have been let out of prison for a short period of time to do some sort of specific work. Work furlough.
And that group of people is right next to this group of dorky hippie enviro bros, which is exactly what I call them the whole time. And Shawn's laughing at them, and Shawn's like, "I know we're doing environmental cleanup, but at least you're not like those guys." And then they come over to say hi.
All those guys are pumped to see Gus. There's hugs, there's high fives all around. We meet Dan Carpenter and his brother Carl Carpenter.
Or DC and CC, as we will be calling them from here on out.
And there's this big joke about, or Shawn tries to make a joke about reducing carbon emissions by not using their first names.
Gus says you're going to have to forgive Shawn. He's not very environmentally conscious.
They understand everyone is entitled to their own opinions.
In a little aside, Shawn is like, "Look, before you go all Black Al Gore on me, you should know that your seasickness patch is gone."
First of all, Black Al Gore was your Halloween costume, not mine. Second of all, yes, oh crap, the patch is really gone. Immediately whimpers, immediately is sick.
I wrote swoon wine, and Shawn is like, "All right, let's go. I'm gonna get this guy to the bathroom." And then they're going down the stairs, and he's like, "Don't you dare go boneless on me! Don't you dare!"
They get to the bathroom, but the prisoners are using it, and our guest star stops Shawn and Gus and says that he is guarding them, and he may not go into the bathroom while the prisoners are in there.
First of all, Shawn says, "You don't understand. This guy has the equilibrium of a bumblebee." And the guard, whose name tag says C. Snowden, is a very tall man who in real life is named Kai McBride, and I know him best, like he's been in everything, but I know him best from Hawaii Five-0. And I just want to point out that this episode made me very suspicious about everyone's heights because Kai McBride is listed as only 6'4" on IMDb.
Ooh.
Yes. So he's towering over everyone. And
including Lassie.
Including Lassie, who's listed as 6 foot or 6'1". And I looked up everyone's heights, and I've got some suspicions that some people are lying. Now, our guard, whose name we don't really know, but his name tag says C. Snowden, says, "Excuse me, you don't understand, because in the state of California, no one is allowed in a restroom with a furloughed felon." And felon number one standing right there. Yeah, which is those guys. Felon number one standing there right beside the bathroom door and right behind our guard. His real name is Kevin Alejandro. I wrote down he's Dan from Lucifer, but he's been in a lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. Like a lot of stuff. I didn't write it all down because to me he's Dan from Lucifer. But our guard says, only I can go in there as their armed escort. And then he looks at Gus and says, "These guys would peel his head like a grape." And then we notice that Kai McBride and one of the prisoners behind him, I call him felon number 2 for quite some time. They're both bald black men, like Gus, but suddenly Gus is the weakest link here. Gus is the weakest link here, and his head is the one going to be peeled like a grape.
He is like, that's one of my biggest fears. We will wait. And then...
Fourth biggest fear.
That's his fourth biggest fear. A little guy comes up and he's doing a pee-pee dance, and they're like, "It's okay, we'll let him go ahead." And so they let the kid go in front of the prisoners. And Shawn and Gus are like, "What is going on?"
Gus is groaning and sinking to the floor.
"They're felons, not animals. What's the matter with you?" Gus is going down, and they decide they're going to find another bathroom.
So we got to walk and talk. The bathroom has been taken care of. We're leaving the nurse's station. Gus now has 3 seasickness patches on him. I think these are supposed to be flesh toned, but they're like racist flesh tone because they're very peachy. And they're like just lined up on the guy's neck.
Uh-huh.
We hear
like they would match you even. Like they might match you. They would not match me. I am too white for them. Gus
They'd match me right now because I'm very red in the face, but I'm usually not this pink.
They hear this muffling coming from one of the storage rooms. They walk past it. They stop. They back up. Did you hear that? They open the door. It's the guard.
Shawn is like, "Oh no, how'd you get in here? And where are the prisoners?" And he looks at Gus and he's like, "Gus, this is a prison break." Which I think there's more than one like prison break reference in this episode because that show was big during this time. There's a couple of like very of its time references, so we'll try to catch those.
But we get the credits, and it's another extra long version.
I just wrote, is this a season 5 thing because they wanted to include so many clips?
I don't know. This is so this is our second time getting an extra long version. I think
and I noticed, yeah, each of our main characters get at least 3 different scenes shown of them with their name credit. So I think they wanted to include lots of like referential, zany physical comedy, which there's a lot in this one. A lot of physical comedy clips, a lot of character clips for each person, and yeah, another extra long. So that's a thing.
Yeah. They let the guard loose. And he said that he was checking the stalls to make sure that they were all out and they didn't leave anything behind. And he got knocked out.
And also now his gun is gone.
"Dude, where's your gun?" And the guard said they probably turned it in for some books at the local community center. Where do you think it's at, man?
So the guard is going to call the bridge to let them know what's going on. Shawn calls Henry.
Henry is on the phone, and Shawn tells Henry what happened, only for him to say, "Shawn, listen to me. I want you to listen carefully. You do not do anything. Do you understand?"
Yeah, he says, "We're going to work in tandem with the Coast Guard. We'll get back to you with an ETA, so keep your phone handy, stay where you are so you have signal, stay in constant contact with me. Absolutely no taking matters into your own hands. Do you understand?
The worst thing you can do in this situation is take matters into your own hand.
So we hang up the phone, and Shawn immediately says, well, we have to take matters into our own hands.
Are you sure that's what your dad said?
Gus, don't be the one game at Chuck E. Cheese that isn't broken. Time is a factor here.
The cops are going to take too long. The captain stopped the boat, and the guard informs them that they have cut off the engine and locked down the bridge so that the ferry cannot be hijacked. That is protocol.
Shawn says then we're the only ones who can stop them. We're the ones who have to stop them. Essentially. He says a lot of things right here, but that's what he means.
The guard says there's nothing for them to lose. They all have 20 or more years left on their sentence. And Shawn and Gus are like, all right, dude, let's do this. We're ready to help. We're in. And the guard said, I'm sorry for how I treated y'all back there. I just assumed y'all were a couple of punk friends from grade school that like to get themselves into different situations, then riff on things at other people's expenses, you know?
And the guys are just like, no, not at all. We're not that. That's not us. And he goes, y'all a couple of G's. Like, they're doing some, like, intense bonding. And then we understand, or we get introduced to our guard, and his name is Crayg. And Shawn is like, all right, so what's the play, Crayg? And he's like, what did you say?
Crayg. Did you see Friday?
And then Shawn does an extended Chris Tucker impression from Friday, which we will not be doing as a couple of stupid white girls who aren't as stupid as Shawn. And then he's like, okay, well, Crayg says that they need supplies. Any idea where we can get them? Yep.
They have the answer.
We're stealing from the hippies. So the hippies are all sitting around telling a really condescending story. Like, these are some condescending ass hippies. I'm not a fan. And I identify as a hippie. Like, so
Gus distracts them all, and Shawn starts stealing all their things. All the time, Crayg is, like, hiding.
Yeah, and there's even, like, a tiny little backpack that Shawn steals at the very end, kind of like the Grinch, going back for, like, the last little crumb of food. Mm-hmm. And Crayg starts going through things, and they find binoculars, walkies, hemp rope. This is great. And Gus says, does there happen to be a hemp gun? Because I'm not sure this is going to help us with armed felons.
Let's not forget about the armed part of armed and dangerous. And Shawn says, or the John Candy part.
He's sitting there eating out of the tiny baby backpack that he stole, because that was clearly the snack pack. And he's just eating their fruit roll-ups, you know.
Crayg sends them to the top to watch for anything. They all have walkie-talkies. Crayg is going to find them, isolate them, and then make my move.
By yourself? Says Gus. Crayg says, I got the Lord on my side. And Gus says he admires his faith. Pin.
Shawn, yeah. I didn't write that down, and now I kind of wish I would, because now I know how the episode ends. Shawn and Gus see the bad guys, and they call down to Crayg, and they're like, and Gus uses his radio voice to let him know that they have found them, and they see them.
So there's a whole back and forth about Gus's radio voice versus his cell phone voice versus his white person voice. But then Crayg finds out that all the doors to the outer deck are sealed off, so he's kind of stuck below. So Shawn and Gus have got to do something. And they get to a ladder.
Did you question how Shawn and Gus got out there if Crayg said all the doors were locked?
They were all out there for a second, I thought.
Yeah. Okay. So it didn't totally make sense to you either.
No. I guess it was like they were out there and then Crayg went below to like look down there for them. And the boys went up top to keep an eye on the people on the deck to see if anybody was acting suspiciously. And then Crayg was locked in. So it might have been a thing in progress at the time, as kind of what I just assumed.
Okay.
But the boys are going to climb up and watch them up from above. So even though Gus doesn't want to, Shawn kind of forces him to like climb up this ladder with him. And then they see that they're about to get into the lifeboat and escape. So the boys jump down like Spider-Man. And there's like a little bit of a tussle. And Shawn releases the lifeboat. And everyone is upset. And Shawn is like, now you have no choice but to stay here and wait for the Popo to take you in.
Actually,
I did write Popo.
There is another choice.
And I keep calling this guy NC for Northcutt, because that's his last name.
I collectively refer to them as criminals a lot.
He was felon number 1 at first. I call him Northcutt from here on out, and then I call his buddy felon number 2, or just number 2. He's number 2.
We cut to Lassiter receiving a phone call, and it's Shawn. And Shawn says, "Tell my dad I kind of took matters into my own hands."
And we see that everyone is tied up.
They're all hostages now. Chief Vic is trying to negotiate with negotiate the whole situation, but wants some sort of confirmation that they're all safe.
Yeah, she's like, "Listen, Mr. Northcutt, there's a way that this can play out where nobody, including you guys, gets hurt, but we need proof of the hostages' safety." And Northcutt says, "Well, I need a fully fueled boat with a GPS descrambler and the assurance that nobody's going to follow us." First of all, what's a GPS descrambler? Like, I just feel like that was nonsense.
I wrote GPS scrambler. I missed the D part.
But
also, what sort of assurance can a police officer give you that they're not going to follow them? Like police officers' MOs are to lie to your face. So why would you take their assurance for anything?
I think he just really wants a boat. But Jules has the full rap sheet. These guys have such a long criminal history, and they're all doing 20 years or more. And this took extensive planning. They all got this work furlough through good behavior, and they must have been planning this breakout the whole time, and they organized it so well. Lassiter thinks this is all Shawn's fault, and Henry says that's not helpful. And Jules says Shawn would have only done whatever he felt like he had to, and he had no choice.
Immediately cut to Shawn and Gus goes, "Choice 17. You could have let them get off the boat and left your cell phone in there, and then we could have followed it." And then Crayg has number 18. And then Gus has choice number 19. And then in come the criminals. And they want everyone to empty their pockets into this, like, little baggie thing.
Shawn is like, "Hey, I have an idea. I think you should let the women and the children and the men go."
Shawn's like, "I think that I can get them to trust me. But first, Gus, you need to give them the nod."
That only works at the brother working behind the counter at Jamba Juice, not on convicts.
Crayg is thinking that their best plan of action is to create an unexpected emergency. Something that will break down their unity as a crew.
And really throw them off. Shawn's like, "Well, what kind of emergency?" And Gus has an idea, but Shawn says, "Does it involve a bear?"
Shawn has an idea, and he rips off Gus's seasickness patches for him to immediately go down and scream, "Man down!"
Yeah, they're really making a spectacle of Gus being sick, and Shawn sneaks Gus another patch into his palm, and Northcutt orders the guys to take Gus topside, and he's suspicious because the cops are taking too long to respond to them.
We get back to the cops, and we find out that the snipers are almost in position, but Chief Vic says almost isn't good enough yet.
So Shawn says, "I think it's time for me to talk them down." Crayg is like, "All right, but you can't go in like half-cocked. You really got to come off hard. That's what these guys are used to and respond to."
He specifically said no silliness, no random movie references.
"Dude, this is just like Collateral, except I'm Jamie Foxx and you're Tom Cruise. You're Cruise."
Crayg knows how to be hard. He'd take the last thing that they said and repeat it back to him, but like an angry question. That doesn't make any sense.
"Oh, that doesn't make any sense?" He's like,
So
"Oh, okay, I got it."
The criminal comes up and he's like, "Listen, I don't want to shoot you."
"Oh, you don't want to shoot us? You don't want to shoot us?"
And then Shawn gets kicked in the face.
Shawn is getting dragged out, and then the two guys come down and tell Northcutt and number 2 that, this is kind of falling apart. We only followed you because this was supposed to be easy, no resistance. But now the cops are setting up snipers, and everyone's getting freaked out. And Shawn psychs in that number 2 and Northcutt have the same tattoo on their neck. It kind of looks like a Celtic knot, except it's barbed wire.
Yeah, it's a little bit weird, but they say to Northcutt, You're not the only one with a dime piece waiting for you out there.
And then Shawn is like, listen. The cops care about hostages above all in these situations. Just show them that they're okay. It'll buy you guys the time you need and, like, keep them from coming in hot.
Didn't you see Dog Day?
And so Northcutt's like, oh, I got it. So he rounds up all the hostages and places everyone in a circle on the deck, and the convicts are in the middle, so the snipers can't get a shot because their boat's the biggest.
Gus, choice 21. You could have used hypnosis to convince them to let us all go. Chief Vic calls. The criminals want them to call off the snipers. They have 10 minutes to get them the boat, or the hostages will start to die.
So we go back to the cops' boat, and they're all arguing about negotiating or not because, man, they've got 2 of our own men up there. And Lassie says, 1.5 at best.
1.5 at best.
And we do not
Still
negotiate
not helpful,
in these.
Lassiter.
We do not negotiate in these situations. Chief
Vic has to make the call.
And she gives the go-ahead for them to go in hot.
Northcutt and criminal number 2 kind of take DC and CC, the hippie nerds that we met earlier, and off into this side room, and we hear a gunshot.
We hear 2 gunshots because apparently the 10 minutes are up.
Immediately, the SWAT team's coming in. They have tear gas. There's all kinds of commotion. Lassiter, oddly enough, is the one who gives Shawn and Gus and Crayg masks to keep them from dealing with the tear gas.
I didn't write this down, but I did notice that. That was interesting. So the cops they take down the 2 guys who are on the deck, and they bring out the other 2 guys from the other room who are also in prisoner uniforms. But Shawn says, whoa, those aren't prisoners. That's DC and CC? And then we see Northcutt and felon number 2 on the medic boat, which they then hijack.
They are getting away. We head to the SBPD. Northcutt and Sanders had already made their escape by the time we tried to call off the medic boat. And then Shawn remembers the tattoos and says, I'm sensing these prisoners belong to a brotherhood in the prison. A small cadre, if you will.
I love that. So it's possible they have an accomplice who helped them with the escape. And Chief is kind of into it. She goes, okay, cool, pursue that.
Yeah, Shawn wants them to look into other members of the Brotherhood. Lassie and Juliet are going to take a separate route, and Shawn goes, defense.
They turn around and they see Crayg sitting out in the corridor looking sad. Turns out he had to give his statement to Lassie. Shawn is like, oh, well, that explains the long face. Dealing with Lassiter can be unpleasant, like crawling over broken glass or any kind of wiener surgery.
Crayg also got fired because of the prisoner escape. This is the first time that a prisoner escape has ever happened at their prison.
Yeah, Gus says, oh man, I'm so sorry. And Lassiter says, I'm not. There is no excuse for allowing them to escape and putting the civilians at risk. You should at least be bleeding to death from a bullet that you took while attempting to stop them.
There's no reason to kick a man when he's down, said Gus.
Lassiter says, that's exactly when a man should be kicked, because that's the only way he learns. The nuns taught me that.
Shawn goes, Lassie, the more I learn about you, the more I'm convinced that you are the penguin.
Except lankier, says Gus.
Lassiter and Crayg start to go nose to nose.
Oh, Lassiter says, I did my job and put those animals behind bars. It was your job to keep them there.
There's a whole I smell you and you reek of failure situation going on.
Oh, yeah. Oh, they nose to nose, these tall men. Crayg is towering over Lassiter, but Lassiter is not cowed by that at all.
Lassiter finally leaves, and Crayg is like, I feel like I have let down my parents. The money that I get from my job,
bills.
Right, is what helps them. And then Shawn's like, you know what? We can help you out.
And Crayg is like, I'm not taking your charity.
They don't want to give him money. They want him to help them solve the case and then split the fee with him.
Craig's kind of in on this idea. And Shawn says, that's what I'm talking about. To the blueberry. Y'all, we just have to pause. And we're putting our blueberry sound in right here, aren't we?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I enjoy this a lot. To the blueberry. I truly didn't realize that at any point in the show they actually said that.
You didn't?
I in my brain it was just like a pop culture reference and a blueberry reference, and it just kind of worked. I love that it actually happens.
I didn't know when or how often it happened, but it has lived in my brain all of these years. And then when we were throwing around possible names for this podcast, I was like, let's do that.
That's perfect.
Shawn doesn't know if Craig's gonna fit into the car though.
But Shawn is like, well, don't worry about the money man. I'll give him my half.
And Gus says, what, and make me the greedy miser? No way. He's getting my half.
And deal.
So we're at the psych office. Craig's contact in prison says in Unit B, he knows that the Tres Diablos were formed, the originals, with a third member, Northcutt's former cellmate, Percy Dunn.
There is a reference to Percy Jackson here that I didn't completely get, but we get a, no, Shawn, that's Percy Jackson.
So Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief movie came out this year, the year of this perfect. Episode. Yeah.
They cannot go question Percy because he did.
Yeah, Dunn died. Gus goes back to the files because the name Dunn rings a bell, and Lorraine Dunn was the GED tutor for multiple years, and one of her students was Northcutt. So Shawn says, to the blue!
Shawn!
And then Shawn kind of whispers, Berry.
Blueberry.
We go to Lorraine Dunn's house.
Yes, they're with Mrs. Dunn. She met Northcutt. She met Dane, as we'll find out his first name soon, when he shared the cell with her son, Percy, of course. And we see this wonderful picture of Mom and Percy on the mantle. Kaylee's making this face at me. I know what the face means, and now I'm laughing. And right next to it, there is a
pineapple.
That's what I assumed.
Yeah, there's a little golden, like it's almost like on a golden pedestal, and there's a golden like pineapple right there. It's like almost a trophy. It's weird, a little decoration.
That's lovely. We find out that Mom and Percy actually used to clean the church together, but when the church finally was closed and boarded up, that's when he started running with the gangs.
And we all know what happened then. Dane really helped her with her grief after her son died.
Gus cuts in and says, excuse me, what's the name of this drink?
That is my homemade horchata.
It is surprisingly tasty.
Oh, I love a horchata. As long as they don't put any milk or cream in it, like the rice water, cinnamon sugar. Oh, mwah, mwah, love it. I have a protein that is churro flavored that if I like water it down tastes like horchata. It's my favorite.
That's lovely. Shawn asks if Dane has tried to make contact with Mrs. Dunn since he's broken out of prison, and she says no.
Then Gus says he's going to have one more glass of this delicious horchata, and then he promptly spills it on her freshly cleaned coffee table. She grabs a towel off of her laundry basket and breaks out the lemon pledge, and Shawn sees the purple bandana that Northcutt was using to mop his sweat on the boat.
It is that purple hanky, and Crayg goes, Shawn, let me holler at you for a second. They go to the side, and Crayg goes, she's lying.
No, he says, this cracker's lying.
This is actually what I didn't put in here. I was like, I don't enjoy the word cracker.
Oh, I love that word. White and breakable. No, but she is clearly not just a boring white woman. So Shawn goes, yeah, totally agree, but cracker?
The moms lie to protect their kids, and you heard her. Dane was like a son to her. He probably came by to say goodbye.
So Crayg says, how are we going to handle this? And Shawn says, I'm a psychic detective, remember?
He goes all psychic and tells her that, I know you lied to us. Now, do we need to call the police? Because I happen to know a detective who doesn't mind roughing up older women.
The look on Craig's face, where he's just kind of like, wait, what? And then kind of like, I wouldn't put it past Lassiter. Like, he knows immediately.
Mom admits that Dane was there just to check on her. And he wanted to pay his respects to Percy by going and checking the room where he grew up.
Gus is literally chugging horchata at this point. And then they all step out and go up to Percy's room, which is still messy for a woman who keeps house so aggressively with the pledge trigger happy finger.
Shawn sees that there is a screw loose on the vent on the side of the wall, and he pulls out the Swiss, takes the vent off, and he sees that there is a mark in the shape of a key where dust has formed around it, but the key is gone.
Did it not give you season 1 Psych Man and Magic Head vibes when he was in a messy room and pulling out a vent?
Fighting with the light. Yep.
So he says, so we're back at the SBPD, and he said, Chief is getting the breakdown from Shawn, and he says, that key that they found is the key to finding these escapees.
Pun intended.
That wasn't a pun. You just used the word twice.
Noted and ignored.
Lassiter rips in, and he's like, man, I just got a tip from my CI. There's going to be a big rig smuggling the guys out. It's going to be leaving in 2 hours. What is this embarrassment to law enforcement doing here?
This is where Crane calls him an Ichabod Crane mother what? And Chief Vic is like, stop this fighting. I'm not having any more of this. Lassiter, you need to go track down the Coyote and the trucking company. Shawn, Gus, Crayg, I need you guys to follow the key lead.
So Crayg instantly walks over to Henry's computer and sits down and starts typing away without invitation. The boys are kind of shook. But his login with the prison still works. So he looks up Dunn's file, and it turns out that the last thing that put him away for 20 plus years was something to do with a heist from 99. And the rumor is there's still some missing millions. There's some money.
There's still a missing $1 million, yeah. We make the assumption that Percy told Dane about this stashed money whenever he was coming to his end, and about the key. And that was what the breakout and the stealing of the key was for, so that they could get the money.
Meanwhile, Crayg is noticing Jules, and
How
Jules
you
walks
feeling,
over.
Mama?
Yeah, well, she walks over to get an update, and he breaks out this line, and Gus is like, dude, really?
She's a dime piece.
Shawn is like, what the heck? What does this mean? What is the code? Secret invisibility watch? What are we?
A dime piece is a hot woman. A 10, if you will.
So thanks, she says, and walks away. And Crayg watches her go. Like, he's rapt the attention.
Shawn remembers when one of the criminals had said to Dane that he isn't the only one with a dime piece waiting for him. And we have deduced that Dane has a girlfriend.
So we go to that girlfriend. So somehow we know where she is, but we're with her now. There's also a little boy. And she says, no, I haven't seen him. She also has her midriff showing, and she's drinking a beer. With her kid running around the apartment. I just was like, this, I don't like what's happening here.
Crayg pulls Shawn aside with a, Shawn, can I holler at you for a second? She's lying.
And Shawn is
but they're hiding behind pillows to have the conversation.
Yeah,
they're not even walking
They just put
away.
up pillows. Shawn is also like, yeah, I got that too. Also, I noticed, not a cracker this time. No cracker. He says, I'm a complicated man.
Shawn sees the kid, whose name is Travis, playing with this little orange van sort of thing. Little Hot Wheels sort of van. Yeah. And he's like, I'm sensing recently that Dane has been trying to be a much better father to Travis, because Shawn remembers that little orange Hot Wheel van from when the prisoners were collecting everyone's stuff on the boat.
Yep, it was in somebody's pocket. So she's like all impressed, and she's like, wow, yeah, actually he did stop by. He was talking about, turning over a new leaf, buying us a bigger place, being more present. And he even said he was going to church tonight. I'm just like, honey, this is how you got in this situation in the first place.
Shawn remembers Mrs. Dunn talking about the old church that they used to work. Shawn, pillow up. I know where the money is, and I know what that key is for.
So we go to the church, and it's such a weird style building. It is like a ski chalet. And it's beautiful. We see the outside a little bit more later. It's very weird. But the guys are sneaking around. They see Northcutt in number 2, who I guess his name was Sanders. And they're like, oh man, we gotta find something to fight them off. Shawn says something about, oh man, do you know how much $1 million weighs? It's probably a whole lot.
Seriously, do you? And Gus said that's not as much as you think it is. It probably weighs as much as a pumpkin.
Yeah, it's like 100 bundles.
100. Yeah. Agreed to disagree.
Yeah, so they all grab something to defend themselves with, and they need to stop these guys, and then before they rush out, it appears Shawn only grabbed a little candle, and Gus is appalled. Shawn's like, what, too waxy? So Gus hands him this enormous Bible, and then Gus says, I didn't write this down, Gus says a Bible verse.
Yeah, it's a psalm. I didn't write it completely down.
So then Crayg comes back with, now let us go kicketh much ass, or something like that. Crayg, 1-1. So it's the real verse versus the fake verse, and then we attack.
Shawn's in, run attack. They hit one, the other has a gun. Shawn holds up the Bible, and Crayg is like, listen, Northcutt, think about that kid.
So then Crayg kind of dithers, but then he drops the gun, and Shawn is like, dude, it's a miracle.
No, it isn't. Turn around.
Crayg pulled a gun. And then...
I'll take that. He takes the money.
Oh my god, he's double-crossing them for money. I mean, this must have been an in-the-moment plan because they only just found out about the money, you know what I mean?
The one thing that I don't understand is, the only reason I don't 100% know that that's true is because Crayg had a gun. But they were all looking for weapons earlier.
Well, I mean, that was Gus's idea.
Okay. We see Shawn and Gus taped to a pillar. Gus is very mad that Crayg has turned on them and blames Shawn.
But Shawn blames Gus for telling him to have faith, and Gus is like, I meant faith like in the Bible, like faith is the substance of things hoped for. And Shawn is like, you're not going to confuse me by switching languages.
The criminals are also tied up, and they remind Shawn and Gus that they are going to get loose and kill them.
Northcutt and guy number 2 say they're going to escape, they're going to kill these guys, they're going to kill the other guy, they're going to get their monies back, and the boys are like, we got to get out of here. Gus, what's the first thing that jumps into your head?
That I'm going to die. Wait.
What's the second thing?
That I'm going to die on an empty stomach.
What's the third thing? Come on, Gus.
I don't know, maybe the cabinet.
The cabinet. So they kind of throw themselves on the floor. They wrestle out of part of their duct tape. They get up, still taped together, and then the other guys have also escaped their pillar, but they're still taped together, so they knock over this cabinet onto the bad guys, and then they run out of the building, and we see Crayg about to steal the blueberry.
That's a company car, screams Gus. Shawn can tell that he is headed into the woods, and Shawn is like, listen, we can cut him off. The question is, do we still have our good stuff?
You know that's right. Or like, you know we do, or something like that. I don't know. We still got it.
It's just like the flashback. They're having the 3-legged race. Shared leg first. Syncopated breathing. 1, 2, 1, 2.
They're
doing really
it.
well.
And then they trip and they roll down the hill screaming. They're rolling around. It's hilarious.
They are in the middle of the road. Crayg is driving along. He's all happy
laughing
and ready to go.
maniacally.
And he sees them in the middle of the road and slams on the brakes, only to stop right before running them over.
So
Crayg just couldn't live with himself if he hurt either of them.
I know, he would never hurt these guys. So then he's like, and you're both okay? Okay, great. Okay, bye. And then he tries to get back into the car.
They're like, isn't this the point where you're supposed to be changing your mind?
And you're like, aren't you ready to reconsider? And he's like, why would I do that?
He doesn't have a job. He doesn't have a plan. All he knows is being a prison guard, and no one's ever going to hire him again.
Yeah. It's he's out of work, and this money is gonna cover all of his dreams. He's going to be able to take care of his parents, his grandparents, his aunties and his uncles, and his nephews. He's going to get these corns removed, and he's even going to fulfill his dream of opening up a wine bar in Bangkok.
The most important question, does Bangkok really need another wine bar?
That's the most important question, says Gus.
I'm afraid that the Turkish market is oversaturated.
Bangkok is in Thailand. Anyway, Gus says, you're going to give up an entire life of doing right for this one wrong? Really?
And Shawn asks for the gun.
Crayg says, no. And then he shoots twice. And the bad guys are down. One in the shoulder, the other in the leg.
Shawn is about to call Juliet and Lassiter. Crayg and Gus are supposed to run over and stop the criminals and make sure that they don't get away. They start to move. Shawn starts to move. Gus and Shawn are still taped together.
So they fall over, just like they did when they were kids. So we go back to the SBPD, and Shawn and Gus are teasing the felons, and Crayg says that's probably not the best idea, because these guys, they hold a grudge.
They might escape, or, get released someday. And believe me, they hold grudges. Shawn and Gus are like, just kidding. Excuse our sarcasm, just a little joke.
Crayg says, you know what, I'm really sorry, you guys, and, I know that, we could probably never get past this and everything, but I just hope you can forgive me, and all is forgiven. They're all friends. Are you kidding? Oh, my God.
Everyone makes mistakes. What matters is, in the end, that you made the right choice.
Wow, that was just like an ending to Scooby-Doo.
I know. Gus is, really happy about it, and Shawn is not.
So they're still like, yeah, we're totally splitting the fee. We couldn't have done this without you. And then Chief walks up and she's like, whoa, you guys, what went down at that church exactly?
Basically, the criminals got the drop on Shawn and Gus, but Crayg saved the day. And he was the one who found the money.
Yeah, pretty cut and dry, really. So then Chief says, awesome. So I just talked to the warden. He's totally going to take Crayg back. Also, there's a reward for finding that missing money from Cal Fed. It's $100,000. So again, congratulations, Crayg. And Shawn is standing there going, Hercules, Hercules, Hercules.
Crayg is like, excuse me, it's Crayg. And corrects Chief Vic even. Shawn and Gus are celebrating. Crayg is very happy. This turned out better than I could ever have imagined, said Crayg. Bye, and leaves promptly.
Don't you feel like, wait, is there something he's forgetting?
Oh yes, they're not going to get any of that reward money, so they chase after him.
Okay, and then our last episode, we are at the Psych office.
Our last scene.
I just got a postcard from Crayg.
It's him in Bangkok at his wine bar.
That wine bar is half ours. We should go and claim it.
But we can't afford airfare because you gave away half of our fee.
Gus says, hey, you know what? There's another environmental cleanup out on the Channel Islands this afternoon.
Shawn says no.
Just like I told you last time, the same. No way. And then Gus hands him a Snickers.
Cool, I get it. Hands him a Snickers, and once again we get, thanks man, I was starving.
And Shawn just follows blindly behind Gus going, packed with peanuts.
And Gus goes, so easy.
And it's over. So I don't know that furthered a lot of our cast character arcs, but it was just so fun.
Yeah. Now, we didn't get any Henry in this episode, which I was a little disappointed by.
True story. No Buzz.
We didn't get any Buzz. We got very little Chief Vic, very little Lassiter, very little Juliet. But I guess we did get Henry. Henry was on the boat. He told Lassiter, it's not helping.
Just a tiny bit. He answered the phone from Shawn. Yeah, we got a little tiny bit of Henry. I think it was a classic Shawn Gus mess around episode, and it was just so much fun. It was the boys being the boys, and
the two big guest stars obviously were Crayg and Northcutt, and they both played those parts so well. It was just very, very entertaining Crayg is just a great character that I wish we could see more.
McBride is everything to me. I don't care how old he is. He always is a scene stealer. Oh, I can't today, Alexis. He's a scene stealer.
Well, you kind of have to be when you're up against James Roday Rodriguez and DeLay Hill, because they are as well.
Okay, so James Roday is supposedly, hold on, let me get back to this, because I was looking up everyone's heights, because Kai McBride is listed as 6'4", and Tim Amundsen is listed as 6 foot, and Maggie Lawson is listed as 5'3", and James Roday is listed as 5'9", and Dule Hill is listed like 5'10"-ish, and I'm like...
Yeah, no, they're both 5'7" at best.
Yeah, they're like short kings. And speaking as someone who particularly loves that in a man, IMDb always lies. Like,
yeah.
if a man says he's 5'9", he's absolutely not.
I don't know if you or anybody who maybe listens to our podcasts watches It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, but the three main characters, the three guys who created the show, have a podcast called the Always Sunny Podcast. And there was an entire arc in one of the podcast episodes where they were talking about how the internet lies about height, and the internet lies about net worth of celebrities. And so they all are like, well, how tall does the internet say you are? And they are all like, oh, Charlie Day is one of them. And he's a little guy. And he was like, I'm 5'6" if I've got the right shoes on. And we get on the internet and it's like, oh, he's 5'8". And he was like, no. And we did the same with Rob McElhenney and the same with Glenn Howard. And like by the time we were done, we were all like, nope, there's at least an inch less on each of them than the internet claims. And then they were checking their net worth, and Rob McElhenney was like worth $50 million. And he was like, can I claim that on my taxes? Like,
why would you want to? First of all.
Yeah. So I think the internet lies. I think
absolutely it does.
The other thing that could have happened is they could have been making Crayg taller on purpose just to make him more intimidating, especially since he was going up against Lassie. But
I think Kai McBride is really tall.
Yeah, I think so too.
So here's the thing. I've met certain celebrities in real life. And one that I will gladly throw under the bus because I love him, and I can say this as a lover of short kings. Michael Bublé is in no way, shape, or form anywhere close to 5'10". Oh, but the internet will claim that he is 5'10". Like, if he is actually 5'8", I would be shocked, because I stood next to our Juliet when we were like in the receiving line for him after a concert, like just trying to get like an autograph or see him in person or whatever. His band leader at the time was a very, very tall man named Alan Chang. And Michael Bublé kind of went past me, and I went, that man's a lot shorter than they say he is. Like, a lot. Oh. But he has such stage presence that, like, you don't know until you're, like, beside him that he's a short king. Like,
and, like, no knock to that. No, I'm not.
Absolutely
I'm not. Like,
no, I hate a tall man, honestly. I'm just like, don't loom over me. How dare you be tall? Cut that out.
And that's why you're 3 inches taller than your husband.
4. I'm 4 inches taller
That's
than
why
my
you're
husband.
4 inches taller than your husband.
I'm the tall one.
That's okay. This is a fun episode. I totally agree with you. There's absolutely no character growth in this episode whatsoever. We do find out about Gus's kind of like environmental loving kind of side of him, but that doesn't really change Gus at all.
No, we kind of knew that on like the animal preservation protection side of things for a while now. The fact that it extends to like further than that is not that surprising. The fact that these boys have such trash diets is a little more surprising to me, given the activism side of it all. But whew, we have such a good season here. Like, I'm having so much fun with season 5.
Yeah, there's only really been one like dud, if you will, so far, and wasn't like really a dud. It just wasn't as great as all the other episodes were.
Right, like only in comparison to the rest of season 5 so far.
Yeah.
It was just like, not the winner.
Yeah, it had its moments still, but yes, it's been a good episode, and are we almost halfway through?
I can't believe we are over halfway done with this with the series. What? That's crazy.
Well, I'm still loving it. My back isn't loving my chair at the moment, but this series is just so much fun. And whether you like crime comedies or not, if you are a fan of a good buddy comedy, you are going to be a fan of Psych. Like, this show is just a winner all around. And I've discovered I'm a really big fan of buddy comedies. Like, my favorite YouTube show is Good Mythical Morning, and that's a buddy comedy. Like,
yeah, it is.
My favorite television show is Psych, and that's a buddy comedy. Like, my favorite podcast is My Favorite Murder, and that's a buddy comedy. Like,
yes. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'm a big fan.
I find podcasts especially that have too many hosts, I'm out. It's like it's sensory overload so quickly for me. It's a little bit too chaotic. When I have like two hosts that play off each other really well, it's the sweet spot. So I think like I know our friends are open to guest starring again. We love having guests, but I think for the most part our format is my favorite.
Yep. Because we are a buddy comedy, and that makes me happy. That's been the episode. Would highly recommend. Would watch again. 10 out of 10. I am Alexis. Don't insult my intelligence.
And I'm Kaylee. Hey, if I'm gonna die, you better be right behind me, or I will haunt your kitchen cabinets till the day you die.
That line is not just Shawn speaking to Gus. I believe that's Kaylee speaking to Alexis.
That is absolutely where I would haunt someone. If you ever, if I pass and your kitchen just becomes like inexplicably crazy and loud and weird stuff happens, it's 1000% me just hanging out.
And this has been
To the Blueberry! Psych out.